And let's see. I'm no longer host, am I? I am. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're doing agent attraction. Today is one of those unique topics. It was written for one purpose, and as I began to stare at it, I realized that maybe I should deliver a different answer to the question that was raised. Normally, when people come into the training on Mondays, level 1 training, they actually don't even worry about the topic. They just come because this is where they think they're supposed to go on Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And you guys have figured it out. This is where you're supposed to go Monday at 11 o'clock Eastern, because there's a lot of places to be every other hour of every other week of every other month of every other year. But today you have a chance to do something that you won't have a chance to do if you're not here. You have a chance to move your agent attraction movement, activity, understanding, compulsion forward. You have the ability to actually decide, you know what, I'm going to make this hour matter. This morning I went out and got up, as I normally do, got up early this morning, went to play tennis, went out to a court. It was 59 degrees when I got on the court. And this is after me being used to 74, 76, over the summer, 88, 89, over the midsummer, 95, 97. And I'm on the court today, hitting the ball, 59 degrees, going, God, this feels good. Well, that's sort of what and by the way, you guys know when the endorphins are kicking in, you feel good. It's a Monday morning and you actually are excited about the week. I got my good friend Tim Holland actually visiting me this week. It'll be awesome. We're building a spare room just so he has a cot somewhere to sleep. But I'm telling you this, when you have that feeling that you just love life, nothing's pulling against you, you don't have a financial issue, a physical issue, relational issue, parental or child issue, all of a sudden things are just flowing. You feel like you're literally 10 foot tall and bulletproof. That's the way I felt about 7 o'clock this morning on the court. And I said to myself, I want to remember that feeling coming on at 4 hours later, 11 o'clock, and talk about it. And here's why. You guys made a decision today to join me. And there's a reason why you made that decision, because you realize that agent attraction, the revenue share portion of EXP, is important to you. So here's the part that I'm gonna embark. Here's golden nugget number 1 for the day, and that's this. Although all we ever have to do is do the things that don't take talent, our attitude when we're doing them matters 100%. At 7 o'clock this morning, I could have done no wrong. My head was right. I went on to play 2 sets. I won both sets. Third was a tiebreaker. I won the tiebreaker. There were times in those in the match where I felt normal. I didn't feel empowered like I did at 7. I felt normal, and all of a sudden I said this. No, you know what? I have some control over how I feel. And if I don't have some control over how I feel, then I want to make sure I create that control. So why am I spending this time? I'm spending this time telling you this because I need you to understand something that most of you haven't committed to understand. And that's this. You can control your attitude. And when you're in the agent attraction portion of your day, controlling your attitude is all that you can control. Because you can't control the prospects you're calling. You can't control the numbers you're dialing. You can only control the way you feel about what you're doing. And all I'm going to say is this. Part of the reason I felt so good today is because I don't have financial issues. I don't have marital issues. I don't have relational issues. I don't have weather issues because I'm not in the north or I'm not in the far south. I am in a good spot. So I need you all to take inventory of where you are right now and ask yourself the question, if money can fix it, it's not a problem. What other problems do you have? Because if money can fix it, you have no problems unless you have a non-money problem. And if you have a non-money problem, then focus on it and fix it, or it'll never go away. If you have a money problem, focus on it and fix it, and it'll never come back. Ooh. Think about that. If you have something other than a money problem, you better fix it or it'll never go away. But if you do have a money problem, revenue share can fix it and it'll never come back. See, selling real estate won't fix it. Nothing personal, but you got to wake up January 1st and do it all over again. This is the one place that the people that are listening to me right now, this is the one place that you can come to gain ammunition, attitude, aptitude, all of the things that you can gain in order to go out and fix money once and for all. Bill, you're on with me for a minute. Jump on real quick. You've had bouts over your lifetime where you've been in decent cash flow, and then you've been in situational cash flow. Let's talk about the feeling of the difference.
Yeah, the feeling when you have cash flow and there's no worries, everything seems to be easier. I know that that's not probably the way it is. It's just the way it is, but when, as Dakota and Sean and Tim and when we had a stretch where things were really, really bad. And boy, at that time, it doesn't matter what's going right. You just kind of feel like everything's, you're just swamped under. Yeah.
So your two numbers, thanks, Bill, I appreciate your transparency. You're two numbers away from cash freedom, according to EXP revenue share. You're two numbers away. The first number, this is level 1 training, so I'm gonna give you the basics of it. The first number is how many qualified frontliners you have. And if you don't have 10 to 15, you're not going to free yourself up financially. Now, some of you may need 20. But if you're not a 10 to 15 frontline qualifying agents, your work's not finished. And if Brent Gove can guide us on anything, and he should guide us on a lot of things, he says this: when you have a money problem, you should be working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to get out of it. Here's why, people. It's not because any of us want you working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And it's not because we think you can sustain it. But most of us, our money problem is short-lived if we actually just focus and go to work. One of them is bringing in enough frontline. That's 10 to 15 minimum. I would say 20 maximum in order to cash flow yourself. Because you got 20 frontline along with the second number I'm going to talk about. And you'll easily be in a cash flow that you can pay your bills. Won't be a problem. You'll be in a 5-figure a month cash flow with somewhere between 10 and 15 frontline players, 15 to 20 maximum, as long as the other number is in place. Here's the other number. You need one person in your group that's blowing up the group if you're not. I'm going to repeat that. You need one person in your group, preferably frontline to you, so you can take advantage of the next 2 levels or 3 levels. Doesn't help you if someone third level from you kills it and brings in 1,000 people if you're only qualified for the first 3 or 4 levels. So I'm giving you the end. I'm giving you when you can relax. I'm giving you when you can slow down. I'm giving you when you can feel like you've made it. When you're at, we'll pick a number, 15 frontline and one person in your group that's blowing it up. Sean, you know your numbers. Would you agree that that's a fair statement?
Yes. And just to elaborate on that, you alone would do that for Bill and I. Jeff Morrell alone would do that for Bill and I. Jay Nelson would do it. So we have 3 people on front line that if it was just one of them, that's exactly what's taking place. The numbers would be up over 5 figures by simply having an Eric, a Jeff, or a Jay. So we have found 3 that went out and built it to basically a couple hundred agents or greater. Absolutely.
Go ahead. Let's talk about those 3 for a moment. Did any of us give you negative pushback? I understand some of us might not have rushed to look at the presentation, but were any of us a problem to get in front of it?
No. I mean, I've told you guys before, Jay was the longest phone call to get onto a webinar, but he did 45 minutes later, but he was also the quickest to join. Took him 45 minutes to get on. He saw it, joined day 1.
So reminding everybody, 10 to 15 to 20, let's pick it a 15 number because we're going to be mature about this. Let's get 15 frontliners, and one of them has to really count. So put the odds in your favor, then we'll hit our topic for the day. The odds in your favor are this. If you know you got to find one that's a player, then start looking for that one while you're going after your 15. I just saved most of you a ton of work, months or years of pain. And for some of you, if you don't listen to what I just said, you'll never get there. Because if you guys sponsor 10, 15, 20 people and none of them are doing anything, you're going to get disenchanted with the results. So you have control over two things. Always have control over two things. How many people you call and who you call. And I would be very careful with both of those numbers. Why am I going to be very careful with both of those numbers? Because you decided to show up at 10 o'clock Central today, and you wanted to hear this wisdom that I'm supposed to share with you. So you just got it. That's it. We're going to cover the topic, and the topic is your excuse for not doing what I just said, finding 15 and a player. I'm about to give you not 5, but 10 excuses. And at any time, if you're thinking about any of these 10, it means your brain isn't on the solution to the problem that you came to Monday morning for. And that solution, to remind you, is how do I get enough money coming in on a monthly basis where I don't care what I'm spending? That's really, think about that life. Think about the life. Let me put it in real estate perspective. Other than Dakota, who's relatively new to what we do, most everybody here has had, well, Michael, you're relatively new as well, but I got a feeling because of your job, if you've had a closing, you may have felt this way. All of us know what it's like to be behind on bills or have a few bills we need to pay for, or something we need to buy, and we know we have a killer closing next month. Killer. It'll easily pay the bills we owe, and it'll buy the new television or mama's gift or on a cruise or whatever, right? We all know that feeling. Everybody know that feeling when you have that thing coming 30 days down the road and you know it'll take care of everything. And even though you would have been normally frustrated about life, it's almost like me at 7 o'clock in the morning on the tennis court this morning. Everything's fine as long as the closing closes, because you're going to be fine. Back over zero again. Anybody know that feeling? Yes or no? Are you tired of having to fight that feeling? Do you realize that Bill and Sean do not have to fight that feeling anymore? Eric and Tim really don't have to fight that feeling anymore. Jeff doesn't have to fight it, although Jeff's nip and tuck in the game more than anybody I've ever seen. Right? He's working this thing soup to nuts. Why? Because his wife's still working her butt off. Right? I just got married 2 months ago. Maybe that's the idea. I'll put her to work. That's a good idea. But Jeff, I didn't mean that in lame. You understand what I'm talking about. I'm about to give you, and the reason I spent this time, I'm about to give you all 10 reasons to be thinking about not building your revenue share group, and none of them are good enough. And here's why. I want to remind you, none of them lead to the solution you're looking for. This is a level 3 comment. It's not even a level 2 comment. It's a level 3 comment. That's what we're going to title it. Level 3 comment. When people respond with any rebuttal, ask them this: does handling that solve their problem? Oh, I love my broker. Great. Does that solve your problem? Oh, I don't have a time to make my revenue share calls. Oh, okay, great. Does that solve your problem? I got great splits. Great. Are you retired yet? Have you set it up? Didn't solve your problem. I don't really have the script down or know exactly how to put them on Zoom and what presentation to show them. Does asking that question solve your problem? Every excuse that you have and every excuse that someone gives you doesn't solve the problem you're trying to solve. And the first person that has to remember that is you. Because you can't ask them if you don't remember it. So today's topic is, I guess a better way to put it, because when I wrote it, is the 5 excuses for agent attraction. And when I originally came up with the topic, I was thinking about covering the 5 excuses that we hear on the phone. But then I began thinking, wait a second. The biggest excuses we have are not the things we hear, it's the things we keep telling ourselves. Christy, it just struck home, didn't it? So just for fun, everybody open your microphone unless you're driving, because I'd rather you could drive safely. And give me one of the top 5 excuses, whether it be, in fact, if you can type it and tell me in the chat box. I'd love to be able to do it that way as well. And I will get to everything else. Kate, I'll talk about blowing it up in just a minute. 5 excuses. Your mics are all on unless they're not. What are the excuses you hear on the phone from other agents? What are they?
You're saying the excuses from other agents?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Happy where I am.
Happy where I am. Okay. Next.
Transaction fee only. Let's say they're doing 10, 12 transactions, they're only paying $3.99 a transaction.
So what they're saying is it costs too much.
Yeah, it costs them money to switch brokers.
EXP more expensive. Okay. Next. Come on, you guys are making calls. What are the 5 things you hear?
Training concerns and mentorship concerns.
Okay. Do you hear that from them? Is that something regularly an agent says, well, if I come over there, I'm afraid I won't get training?
I did have that yesterday. I was talking to someone who was previously with ERA and they just moved here, and I met with them and they had been really disillusioned because they were promised all of this mentorship and it fell through the cracks. And that was their #1 concern. And as much as I talked about our program and what my mentor has done for me, there still was that resistance because of the hurt that they had.
And I understand her hurt, but I'm now going to lump that as, I don't hear that as a regular concern.
Okay.
And there's a way to handle that, and we'll bring that up in a minute, but I want to stick on the things that we hear all the time.
Okay.
And then I'm going to lump them together and talk about it. What's another one? Sean, Tim, Tolga, Kate, what do we hear?
I hear that they're ready to retire. They're satisfied with what they are, but I have heard training complaints too. I have heard.
What else? Give me another one.
They want offices for some reason.
Give me another one.
An agent told me that she thought the reputation for EXP was a little slimy, that all they want is agents.
Okay. EXP pyramid, EXP not professional. Okay.
Real quick rebuttal on that. That's why EXP just reported $4.4 million of profit, and Remax just reported 100,000.
Good one.
Tim, and what time frame was that when you just stated that? The last
quarter, last week's
quarter?
the last 2 weeks of earnings that all the real estate companies posted.
Okay, so that was third.
It's on
quarter.
Inman this morning. Go look at it. It's pretty sweet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm not going to answer it that way, but I thought it was a fun fact to throw out right then.
Yeah.
Depends on how smarmy the agent's being.
Here's what I'm not hearing from most of you. I'm
I
not
love
hearing.
my
I love my broker. I love my broker. I'm not hearing. I have a friend. I have friends over there. I already know all about it. I'm not hearing.
Heard that one.
I'm not hearing silence. They say they'll look and they don't follow up. I'm not hearing, I'm on a team. Right. These are all things we hear, but I want to highlight most of the things that I hear, and you guys agree or disagree. On the prospect side, I hear I'm happy where I am more than anything else. The second thing I tend to hear is I've got a good, financially, it doesn't seem to, my splits are, I'm at 95.5 or I'm at 100%. So that's the second thing I hear. Number three that I hear is, I mean, again, it's part of, offices I hear, it doesn't seem like it's a huge issue, but I do hear that. I do hear ready to retire, I'm slowing down. The fifth one I hear is I just moved. Right?
Yeah.
So these are the 5 things we hear. Let's remember, going back to the last thing I was training on today, none of those solve the problem of them making more money and setting up retirement. So what I try to impress upon you guys today is this statement. Whenever they respond, you've heard me do this before, agree with them, good. I mean, I don't often hear that they love their broker, or I don't often hear, I'm glad you love your broker. You should have a great relationship with them. But let me ask you a question. Loving your broker, is that going to help you put more money in your pocket? Is that going to help you sell more houses? Is that going to help you get health insurance? Is that going to help you set up retirement? Now, I'm not here to tell you you should move. I'm here to say this. How important are those things to you? Because there's hundreds and hundreds of agents a month that come to EXP who also love their broker. So can we look at this as a business option? And then we'll decide how important the love of your broker is. Right? That is a different way to compete with anything that they tell you. My splits, you know what? I hear that all the time from people that are 100%. Why would I move? I collect 100%. And my answer to that is, you know what? If I can't give you a reason to move, you shouldn't move. But let me ask you a question. How many houses did you sell last year? I sold 35. Great. So if we helped you sell 36, wouldn't that extra house pay all the fees? So here's the question. It's not a fee issue. It's a future issue. Where do you want to be working 2 or 3 years from now? Which brokerage allows you to get what you want 2 or 3 years from now? I found EXP gave me options that other brokers didn't give me. One of those being I could eventually slow down and not have to sell as many homes. I didn't tell them by recruiting. I just said, that's one of the options. EXP gives agents an option to sell, and then eventually slow down their sales and maintain their income. That is where I wanted to focus 2 or 3 years down the road. I'd like to show you that program. Hey, I need an office. You know what? I hear that from a lot. Where most companies have 1 office, do you know EXP has 4? Now, none of them act this exact same way yours does. So let's talk about your office for a minute. How often do you get in? What kind of things do you get there? Is it just rubbing shoulders? Is that the big deal? Yeah, rubbing shoulders. Is it the classes? Is it going in there for the water or the coffee? Let's talk about, by the way, I hear you loud and clear that you love an office. Let's talk about that for just a moment. Do you like just getting out of the house? And go down that and find out what they're like. We have the cloud brokerage, which of course gives us all kinds of rubbing elbows, right? I don't know about you, but I like doing Zooms more than I do going into an office. I like interacting with people this way. It's faster. Okay. The second thing is I like being trained this way rather than going into a live training. Although once in a while, live training is cool. I don't want 80 hours a week of live training. We have a second office. It's in Regis. You know, if you're working in big cities, Regis is everywhere. If you're in small towns, they're not. What's the third office? The third office for everyone should be Starbucks, or the seller's home, or the buyer's home. That's where everybody goes. Where's the fourth office? The title company or the lender that person uses. They would love to have you and a prospective client use their office, even if it's just for an hour. So we'll teach you how to, by the way, I want you to stay in an office. That would be awesome. It's not an option we give you, but here's what we do give you: retirement. Which would you rather have, an office or retirement? Which would you rather have, an office or better lead generation? What would you rather have? You need to get them involved in the opportunity that EXP has. Don't just agree, hey, I get it. But having your office doesn't solve your problem of going from 5 to 8 million. You've been going in your office for 3 years and you can only get to 5 million. Maybe you need to change locker rooms. Maybe that's what you'll need. I don't know if that's the case, but here's what you've proven. You've proven working at KW, working at Berkshire, working at Caldwell for the last 3 years, you've been able to build your career to where it is now. So all I'm going to ask you, don't answer me. All I'm going to ask you are 2 questions, the same questions NAR tells us. Number 1, most agents don't pay their taxes on time. And number 2, most agents don't save money for retirement. So you can look at your bank account and you can decide on your own if the last 3 years have paid into those 2 things, or you've just been like every other realtor just getting by. I'm not here to criticize it. I was the same person until I found EXP. Do you all see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
You can handle any one of the excuses by agreeing with them. Good. I'm glad you like your office. What do you use? Just curious. I hear offices, a lot of people during the pandemic didn't go at all. Are you going back in your offices now? Oh, you love your broker. That's awesome. Do you interact with him as a personal friend? Oh, man, I'll tell you what, you should be loyal to them forever. So here's a question for you. Is that broker going to give you more leads? Are they going to reduce your fees? Are they going to give you access to health insurance? I'm not here to be ugly. I'm here to ask you a question, because this is why people that love their broker move to EXP. And by the way, you can't move to EXP yet because number 1, you love your broker. Number 2, you don't know why you should move. Let's jump on a Zoom. Let me show you why other people that love their broker move. And then you can say, you know what? I still love my broker too much to leave. And I will be totally cool with that. Does everybody see where I'm going? It's just another way to talk to someone that has a viable excuse, or at least viable in their own eyes. Okay, 28 minutes. I'll pause for a breath. Questions, comments? That's like, it's a gloss over, nothing.
I was gonna say, Eric, I think it's great. You kind of reminded me of that, the five things you can ask them toward the end of the presentation. You know, say, hey, just kind of go along with me here. I think this will help wrap it up really good for us, and bring up the screenshot where they can get from 0 to 10 on training, leads, healthcare, ownership, and retirement. Right. And by then giving that 1 through 10, right, the only one that they're going to be able to answer is first 2, training and leads. Even if they say, yeah, my training's about an 8 over here at my brokerage, and I'd say leads is maybe a 7. What about healthcare? Well, we don't have healthcare. What about getting ownership in the company? Well, we don't have ownership. What about passive income when you attract or sponsor someone over there at your brokerage? No, they give us a gift card. So when you add them up, right, they're going to have just the first 2 may add up between 12 to 20, and the next 3 are 0. Then all of a sudden you get to ours and you walk them through healthcare, ownership, and retirement. We can go 10, 10, 10. Training and leads, if you want to call ours an 8 or 9. Anyway, they're going to be 45 plus points over here. They're going to be 16 to 18. Just another good visual when you're wrapping it up. Kind of almost helps overcome some of that stuff, I guess we're talking about, Eric, where when they look at this and realize, if you go out 5 years from now where you're currently at, are your numbers going to change? It's still just leads and training. They don't have healthcare, ownership, and retirement through RevShare. Anyway, that's on our latest PowerPoint that Jeff put together. Thanks to Jeff on that PowerPoint, which we've uploaded to the Freedom Team site. It's a great way to kind of wrap up that presentation if you're going through the PowerPoint by going through that 0 to 10 on those 5 different ways.
Speaking of that, by the way, it's not a bad idea at the very beginning of a presentation to tell them, hey, look, at the end of this presentation, we're going to score, this way. We're going to talk about a handful of things, some of which you may have, some of which you may have, but I want you to look for these things as we're going through the presentation because they matter to some agents. And you can set it up right from the beginning that way.
I like it. That's good.
Let me address something real quick because it's staring me in the face. It didn't go generally. Someone had written to me, Eric, what does blowing it up mean? Okay. When you're looking for an agent who's blowing it up means they are recruiting a boatload of people. So when Sean referenced earlier, the idea that he has Jeff, Eric, and Jay, we've blown it up. Each of us has a few hundred people in our groups. Of course, Tim does as well, Kathy does as well, but they're all part of Jay's group. And so that's what they mean by Kate blowing it up. Okay. Blowing it up in real estate is awesome. Blowing it up in real estate is awesome. The problem with that is that doesn't build your residual beyond that one agent, right? So we do want people that blow it up in real estate, but in this conversation, we want people that blow it up with recruiting. Go ahead, Christy.
So one of the things that you said that I liked, I don't remember hearing before, was to take the conversation away from the personal aspect and turn it towards the business option. So could you just explain that a little bit more and how you would do that? Because I feel like that's a stumbling block for me because everybody is holding so tight to their personal relationships and they're not looking at that business point of it and how to step away from that.
So there's a couple ways to do it. One of them is I'm pretty open to doing it this way. I'm not saying I do it this way every time, but it's a blunt in your face. And by the way, in your face doesn't always mean putting it in their face. It just means transparent. So I often, if I'm sensitive to that, it sounds like you're sensitive to that, Christy. Yeah. So you might say, hey, look, I'm glad we caught for just a minute. Listen, I have a very unique role here at EXP. I talk about the business side of the numbers. And the reason I do that is because I understand agents like you may have an incredible setup where they are. You may love your broker. You may have a great office. And because of that, a lot of agents don't even look at other brokerages without realizing that other brokerages may offer as much, if not more. So for the moment, can I ask you a question? Could we have just a side business question, a business conversation about your business? Okay. I mean, that would be one way. Another way is and this is the way I would probably do it. I don't sew that problem in. I don't want it coming out unless they bring it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I do address things in the presentation that I know they're going to bring up. So during the presentation, I'm always going to say, look, and you may love your broker. I'm going to say, and you may have a great split. I'm going to say, and you may really enjoy going into an office.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is having all of those to your loving isn't getting where you want to go with your career.
Okay.
Your broker, unfortunately, as great a broker as they are to you, they can't provide you the leads that we can. They can't train you 80 hours a week like we can.
No.
They can't give you ownership in the company as good as they love you, and they probably love you. You're an awesome agent. So I'm not asking you to separate friendship. I'm asking you from a business standpoint, if you continue to do real estate for 2 or 3 more years, what brokerage will not only be better for you, but potentially set you up for the rest of your life?
Okay.
I would not I'm continuing to say, I wouldn't walk away from a great broker relationship for a couple of bucks. But I want to show you a way to truly be able to walk away from aggressive sales in the next handful of years, and your broker can't show you that. By the way, you want to know why people that come to EXP who still love their brokers come? What I'm about to show you, you'll see why. I'm not saying you'll come, but you'll understand. You know what you'll say to me, Christy? You'll say, okay, Eric, I get it. I understand now why they go.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, Eric, I just piggybacking on that, the thing that like the big picture on this is our goal is to get them to, when this is in that initial conversation, our goal is to get them to see the information, because I've had so many people when I'm talking with them first that are like hemming and hawing about even looking at the information, that are telling me, I'm happy where I am. And then once we've gone through the information, they're telling me how unhappy they are where they are. So sometimes, just frankly, people lie. And I don't ever want to call them out on that, but that's why I want them to see the info, because what they may be telling me to get me not to show them, just to be kind of getting the know out there, sometimes is just that. And so my breaking down objections is, let's just take a look at the info, and see, because it is amazing how many people are like, well, I love my broker. And then they're like, yeah, my broker just retired and I hate the new guy, or I hate the new girl. And you're going, wait, you just told me you love your broker, but that, that happened. So get them to see the information. That's my goal.
Thanks for that, Bill. There's a way to do that, Christy, and everybody else, especially if you're new. It starts and sounds like this. I hear you like your broker. I hear you got a great split. I want you to know that not only do I hear that, but after you look at EXP, you still may decide, you know what, EXP is not the right company for you now or maybe ever. But here's what I would recommend. I'd recommend you look at EXP as long as you know that I know you're not changing brokerages. There won't be any pressure. All I want to show you is why 500 to 1,000 agents have been coming to this company every week for 3 years. I just want to show you why they're coming. And at that point, if you say, oh, you know what, I want to know more, then we'll talk more. But if not, it'll be a short conversation. And here's the good news. Then the next person that calls you about EXP, you can say, oh, I've already clearly seen it and I understand it. So let's go ahead and get you set up to do that. Again, with no pressure. Right? So let them know, hey, I hear you here. There are people just like you that still move to EXP, that still love their broker or whatever you said. And I need you to hear this loud and clear, Bill. I know you're not changing brokerages. I'll text it to you if you need me to text it to you. I believe you. I just want to get the information in front of you so you can go, oh, now I know why they're growing faster than any company in history. I'm going to repeat that again. Anytime I give them something, but there's a little baby hook in it. The little baby hook. Hey, I'm totally cool showing you this in 15, 20 minutes. I can show it to you very quickly, 30 minutes very quickly. And I want you to know, I don't expect you to come. There may be a day at some point in the future where you need health insurance, or potentially you want to slow down selling. But right now is not the time. But let's get you in front of the information. Right? I throw something else out. Anybody else got anything to add or comment on?
Yeah, can I make a comment, Eric? I think, and this is just the way I kind of think about it, I like creating distance from what they're attached to. If they come and say, I love the place I'm at, I love my broker, whatever it is. I mean, I kind of like look at it and like, well, I would assume you do, you wouldn't be there, right? I mean, that's kind of like, that's the starting point. If you didn't like them, you wouldn't be there. But, and then you can lead into, some of your examples of, let me just explain, or let me show you why so many are coming over here. And then you can decide later if that's something that would work for you or not, or however language you want to use. But they focus so much on, I love my broker. And I think that kind of like, well, I assume you do. I mean, why else would you not? I mean, you wouldn't be there otherwise. I don't know. That's just kind of the way I think about it. It's another way of putting it in perspective, because people get attached to something. And if you can kind of separate them from that attachment, it makes it a lot easier for them to be open-minded to something else.
Great point, Sean. You can also bring it up this way. You can also sit there and say, again, if there's a personal story to you, say, I get it. I did too. Whatever they say, I get it. I feel the same way, right? Here's what I found out when I looked at the presentation. There was more in it at EXP that made it worthwhile for me to still love that. But I just found there was more opportunity for me somewhere else. You may or may not find that. I'm not going to push you one way or the other, but I'm telling you, you should look. How's tomorrow afternoon or first thing Wednesday morning work for you?
I also found out that brokers aren't selling real estate, agents are selling real estate. That's a big thing that people get caught up on. You know, brokers are not out there selling the houses. I'm selling the houses. I'm the agent. You know, and I'm glad you like them, but you're the one selling houses. Why don't we do what's in your best interest?
Yeah.
That's another way I think about it.
Real quickly, show of hands, how many of you got a text message this morning reminding you of this call? Raise your hand. Kim, what I told you earlier, they shut us off, right? Okay. When they say I'm busy, I'm going down the list. When they say I'm busy, say great. Right now you're busy. You did 4 million. Is your goal, just a quick question, is your goal to do 8 million? Is your goal to do 6? What I want to show you is how to sell more real estate and be less busy. If I can't show you that, there'd be no reason why you'd come, but let me show it to you. Anytime they tell me they're busy, I say, that's awesome. I have one question though. If you're busy selling your volume, how are you going to sell more real estate? Let me show you a couple systems that'll do it with you. Again, not trying to be an idiot. I'll tell them, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm happy you're busy. But give you an example, I got a buddy of mine. I'd love to introduce you to him. 3 years ago, he did 7 million. This year he did 35 million. He will tell you he was busy 3-4 years ago. He'll tell you he's busy now, but he's busy with more efficiency. Dude, imagine making the commissions off of $33 million as an agent. I just want to introduce you to the guy. Not in the right mindset right now. So Tim, you call somebody up and they say, I'm really not in the right mindset right now to talk about another broker. Is that what they're saying? Something like that?
No, I misunderstood your original question. I thought you were asking what excuses we're giving ourselves to not do attraction.
I'm going to hit that in the next 15 minutes for sure. Thank you for that. Okay. They're bothered when I call. Okay, Kim, if they're bothered when you call, then you have my permission to be bothered back and hang up. Please understand that I'll never, ever, ever, I'm going to change that. I have never, ever taught, because I don't know what the future holds. I have never, ever taught someone to overcome a negative objection by trying to move them to positive. What I try to do is partially what Sean says. I want to distance myself with a statement that'll bring them to neutral or not. People don't go from negative to positive. They go from negative to neutral. The minute they go neutral, you can take them positive. So I will say, when they say, man, you caught me at a bad time. Bad times are bad. I'm not going to talk to you now. Okay, good. I'll call you back tomorrow. Thank you for your time. Boom. Is there ever a good time? No, you don't say that because then they get mad at you. So what you want to say when they're giving you something, like when you say they're bothered when I call, there's 2 ways they're bothered. They're bothered they're getting a phone call. They're bothered that you're calling from EXP. Okay, let's assume it's the EXP one. So go in and say, you should be. There's a boatload of EXP agents making all kinds of calls, trying to recruit everybody. Here's my guess, Jim. You've gotten a boatload of phone calls, but you haven't looked at the presentation one time and had someone explain what's important for you. That's what I want to do. There's a reason why they're all calling. There's a reason why we're exploding, and there's a reason why you're not interested. The problem is you're not interested in something that you probably should find interesting. Would you do me the honor of one time? Look, it's Monday of this week. I don't care if we do it this week or next week. Pick a time. Let me show you quickly what all the craziness is about. And then the next time an EXP agent calls, you can say, "Hup, I absolutely understand it, not interested." But let me go back and say this. When they're negative, they're not a prospect. It's okay to say, sorry, I'm number 6. Because they'll say, I've had 5 people call me. I'll say, great, I'm number 6, but let me tell you why I'm different. I'm the one that's going to say this. 5 people called you, you haven't looked at it yet. You're going to get 5 more to call you. There's a reason why they're calling. Just take a look at it and then say no. And I'm okay if you say no. And I go down that direction. I'm good where I am, Dakota. Again, I don't have time. No office. They want office. Again, we have our own office in the EXP world. We do. We do have access to having our own office. Kate's brand new. Welcome, Kate. If you try it, it comes off argumentative. What comes off argumentative, Tim?
Just following up on what you were saying, if you try to take them from negative to positive, you're going to come off argumentative in so doing.
So in the last 15 minutes, let's rapid fire. Don't forget, tomorrow's more transactions, same time. Wednesday's lead generation, same time. Level 2 training for people on Thursday. This one's going to be, this Thursday will be interesting because it'll be from the pontoon. Tim and I will be on the pontoon. We'll be sitting back like this. He'll be drinking a beer while I'm talking, and then he'll be talking and I'll be drinking a beer. Or maybe we'll just both be drinking a beer while we're talking. The 5 reasons why you're not making calls. Number 1, you're not prioritizing the time. Number 2, you're not prioritizing the time. Number 3, you're not prioritizing the time. Number 4, you don't want it bad enough, so you're not prioritizing the time. And number 5, you haven't done something that doesn't take talent, so you're ready. You haven't learned the script, you haven't gotten a list, you haven't made enough calls to get a little insulated, calloused. Right? You don't make calls to become cynical. You make calls to realize that you're not calling, you're not getting everyone. You're making phone calls to find the ones that are looking for you. And so the only way to do that is to make more calls. So I went through 3 contractors just to find out that none of them would do what they told me they would do. Good news, I only gave money to 1. Bad news is they didn't finish. I still need work done at the house. I'm not going to do it on my own. What are my options? Call another contractor. How hesitant am I to call a contractor? Very. How hesitant am I to give any of them a deposit? Very. But here's where you have to remind me, Eric, you're not solving your problem. And the only way I should really or could really solve my problem is to call 10 of them in one day and see which ones show up, try to hold back on deposits until they're here working. But the only way I can solve my issue is to do the work. So I'm going to remind you that your issue is the same as mine, even though it's a different topic. There's only a few of us on this presentation who presently have enough rev share to cover their monthly bills. And then there's a group of us that are here that don't have a rev share check covering your monthly bills, and you want one. So the question is, how much time should you be putting into agent attraction? I know what the normal excuse is. I got to get my mind right. I don't exactly know what to say or what presentation to put them on. I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to look foolish. So I need you to do something for me. I need you to think about your bank account right now. And then think about your age. Thinking about how long you've been working. And I'm not trying to go negative. I'm trying to ask yourself, shouldn't that be what you're foolish about? I mean, we've all made decisions to get us to where we are now. And I am not in any way trying to make this a negative call. But I'm going to hit here to say this. People, when are we going to take the one thing that all of us have some measure of confidence that it can get us out of this problem we have? When are we going to prioritize this as the single most important thing you should do part-time. I'm gonna say it again. The single most important thing you should do part-time. And you should never put your part-time gig in front of your full-time income. But we know that you have an hour a day, most days, where you don't need to be working your full-time income. You can look at yesterday as Sunday and realize you didn't work an hour yesterday that you could have worked agent attraction. And you didn't work an hour on Saturday that you could have worked agent attraction. Some of you are excuses all week long, but you got Saturday. Some of you cut it off early on a Friday just because it's Friday and you could have used it. Part of you making changes is getting uncomfortable. And if you think me talking to you about this is uncomfortable, you haven't begun to scratch the surface. What you have to do is take what I've given you, which is, maybe I'm not where I need to go. And maybe he's right that I just haven't committed to it. We are in the 7 best weeks. The 7 best weeks for you to be working agent attraction. And here's why. Because during these 7 weeks, I know you've heard it, agents are not as busy. The market now has slowed down. They're not as busy. Oh, they're more open-minded. No, that's not the reason. The reason is all of that is happening and you guys are slower. There isn't an agent looking at me right now that's doing more real estate today than they were doing 4 months ago. Here's the problem. Because of that, you're thinking extra hard on doing more transactions because you need the money. And I promise you, 30 minutes less of thinking extra hard won't cause a problem in your transaction business. But if you don't think 30 minutes less on the transaction problem and put that time into this, you're going to have an attraction problem forever. There's never a good time to start something new or intensify something new. There's never a good time to do it. But the best time is now. Oh, let me just get through the holidays. Oh, Thanksgiving's next week. Oh, let me just get through this one closing. And the answer is, all you're doing is sowing a habit that you're not ready to do it now. And I need you to hear this loud and clear, because I've been pretty soft and pretty hard today. I need you to hear this. I don't care whether you build a revenue share group or not. I don't care whether you show up on Monday or not, although I hope you do, both. I don't care if you listen to me or not, although I think if you do listen to me, it'll be a little easier for most of you most of the time. Here's what I do care about, is that you hear me loud and clear. It's the 11th commandment, thou shalt not jive thyself. If you don't want to build agent attraction right now, and you're not going to build it over the next couple of weeks, then just look in the mirror and say, you're not going to do this. What are the minimums I'm going to do so I don't completely disengage? As we close up with the last 5 minutes today, I want you to do a self-assessment. And I want to ask yourself the question. Ask, what do you want to accomplish in the next 7 weeks? And hit that goal. And if that goal, Dakota Wright, is, I just want to get better at it. So let me take you back 3.5 years. 3.5 years ago, I was interviewed by Brent Gove in the cloud. He interviewed me, and I was relatively new, had been in it for about a year. And he said, Eric, how did it go when you got started? And I remember saying something like this. Bill, you were on it. I remember. I said, the first 90 days, all I cared about was one thing, that I got better. And the only way I could do that is to do it regularly. And better to means I created a better habit. That's what I meant. I created a better habit. So Dakota, you're brand new. If your January 1st is, I'm going to be a beast January 1st. I don't care if you take this first 90 days, Kate, you're brand new, and just get yourself ready to go. But ready to go means perfect practice, not practice. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And perfect doesn't mean you're doing it perfectly. It means you're doing it as perfect as you can do it until you can perfectly do it better. I'm going to get better. I'm going to do, my calls today are better than yesterday. My calls tomorrow are going to be better today. I'm going to make more calls tomorrow. I'm going to quit not making my follow-through calls. Because if you don't make your follow-through calls, they're going to continue to more and more and more. Then you're going to be looking at, do I do follow-up calls? Do I do new calls? And that is death. The lifeblood of your business is making new calls. Sean, how long did it take Jay Nelson to decide he was getting in?
About 3 hours.
How long did it take Jeff Morrell to decide he was getting in?
2 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks.
How long? I didn't have a license when you showed me at the time. At that time, I had lapsed. How long did it take me to tell you I was going to do it?
I'd say within a week.
Some of you are working on people weeks and weeks and weeks. They're coming. They're coming. They may be. But there's no thinking on your side. That shouldn't matter. Just keep sending them stuff. And call the new ones. Got 3 minutes to close out. Tim, you've been quiet. Anything?
No, lots of golden nuggets today. I appreciate it. I've just been a sponge.
Anybody
I've
have a
said a
final
few
question?
things differently that have made an impact. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. Anybody else? Comment, question? Go ahead, Kate.
So Eric, I have a comment. I read something this morning that really spoke to me. I wanted to share. And it said, stop letting your potential go to waste because you don't feel confident and ready enough. People with half your talent are making serious waves while you decide when you'll feel ready.
That's encouraging.
It's encouraging, and here's why it's so encouraging. Because it flippin' just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to one of the statements I've been saying more and more regularly. Just do the
Yes.
things that don't take talent.
Yeah.
And you'll get better. Perfect
Yep.
practice. Perfect
Yep.
means the best you can do. And sometimes the best you can do sounds like this. It's just a bad call. Kate, what were we going to ask?
I was going to say, being new, fire hose, great information. I sold educational books door to door in college with Southwestern Company, and we practiced scripts. And that was so powerful because you could approach anyone knowing you're going to cover everything up front. You know how to cover objections, and practicing was so key. Actually memorizing your script gave you confidence to make any phone call or knock on any door.
So the problem is you just gave someone permission. One of the excuses, I don't really know the script well enough. I don't really know the responses well enough. Here's the problem with that. As long as you think that, you're not going to make calls effectively. So here's what I'm going to ask. How long does it flipping take to learn? I mean, honestly, how long? You could pay Tony Robbins $10,000 and go to a date with destiny. He'll keep you there for a week. He'll exhaust you. He'll break you down. He'll make you cry. He'll make you sleep on your desk. He'll make you drool. He'll make you feel weak. He'll make you feel strong. And nothing personal against Tony. But if he could do it in a day, he'd do it in a day. How long does it take to learn that script? How long does it take to learn answers to, well, I love my broker. I like my split. I'm at 100%. I've already moved. You're the fifth person that's called. We've been doing this for a year and a half. No one's coming with new rebuttals. So, Christy, it takes 1 day to learn. Kate, it takes a couple of days to imprint. Practice 15 times an hour on somebody. Get a buddy and practice. You call them. Dakota, you call Kate. Kate, you call Dakota right back. Dakota, you call Kate. Kate, you call Dakota right back. Practice. Don't let your excuse, I'll end the way I started, not solve your problem. Handle the excuse. You know how to. Americans are great for knowing the problem. We're horrible for fixing them. All of a sudden, we're like, there's something wrong with my car. There's something wrong with my car. So, oh, yeah, that rattle, I finally figured it out. And then a month later, you still got the damn rattle. Figure out what your problem is, bring it here. We'll tell you how to fix it, and then fix the dang thing until you find out you have another problem. That's what we do Monday and Thursday. We identify problems, move you past them in order for you never to have the problem again. This Thursday, we're doing training. Here's how it goes on Thursday. We want you all to show up with your experience from this week. I want you to come in and tell me exactly what happened, tell me exactly what you're confused about, so we can solve it in 2 seconds, and Tim and I can go back to drinking beer. With that said, we will see everybody on Thursday.
Great meeting. Thank you. Great meeting,
Yes.
everybody.
Thanks. Great job, brother.
Bye, everyone.